Finally, we are here at the very, very last Oscar category. Can finally stop talking about this godforsaken ceremony. But yes, this is Best Picture, and the nominees are American Sniper, Clint Eastwood, Robert Lorenz, Andrew Lazar, Bradley Cooper, and Peter Morgan, producers. Birdman, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, John Lesher, and James W. Scotchdopoli, producers. Boyhood, Richard Linklater and Kathleen Sutherland, producers. The Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson, Scott Rudin, Stephen Rails, and Jeremy Dawson, producers. The Imitation Game, Nora Grossman, Ido Ostrovsky, and Teddy Schwarzman, producers. Selma, Christian Coulson, Oprah Winfrey, Didi Gardner, and Jeremy Kleiner, producers. Theory of Everything, Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner, Lisa Bruce, and Anthony McCartan, producers. And Whiplash, Jason Blum, Helen Estabrook, and David Lancaster, producers. Now, this is actually a kind of weird list for me because, first of all, why are there only 8 nominees when they have the opportunity to recognize 10 films? I don't know why they don't just fill up those empty slots anyway. For me, like 5 of the nominees here are completely deserving. The other 3 I'm not so sure about, really. I really think they could have nominated better films like, let's say, Foxcatcher, Mr. Turner, The Babadook, which was snubbed for like everything, especially like best sound editing. And even like movies like Gone Girl and Nightcrawler, which had been nominated in other categories, but I think just deserved more recognition. But you know, this is the list we have. So at 8th place, I'm gonna put American Sniper. And the biggest strengths of American Sniper really are its actors, its director, and really its exploration of the psychological effects of war, which I don't really think it does a great job at, but it's very interesting at least. But ultimately, it's really, really brought down by its repetitive structure, the shallow treatment of its subject matter, and you know, its low quality effects. You know, I'm not gonna forget the fake baby anytime soon. And really, it just baffles me how this even got as many nominations as it did. For me, it's really kind of unfortunately indicative of the politics involved with the Oscars. I just don't know how this movie just got so much steam all of a sudden. Now at 7th place, I'm gonna put The Theory of Everything. And in The Theory of Everything, Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones are excellent. I really, really like the presentation of both sides of the relationship being the focus rather than Stephen Hawking's real science. Like, I really thought it was refreshing, and the score from Johan Johansson was fantastic as well. It's just, you know, while The Theory of Everything is not as problematic as American Sniper, definitely, it's ultimately for me just not as strong as the other movies in the list. If only they kind of fixed the beginning and the ending of the movie, I think it would have been a lot better. Yeah, but it's still a really good movie in my opinion, but it just also says a lot to me about the Academy's affinity for like really sentimental British true story period films, so yeah. Now at 6th place, I'm gonna put The Imitation Game, and in The Imitation Game, Benedict Cumberbatch gives a really great performance as Alan Turing, and Martin Tilden, the director, really manages to keep both the thriller aspects of the movie and the drama aspects working very, very well together, almost simultaneously sometimes. And overall, it is a very, very well-made movie in that it looks great, it has great music, and really, I think, handles its non-linear structure fairly well. But for me, it's at 6th place because it's just definitely, well, it definitely is really the most formulaic movie among the nominees, and that's not a bad thing. Like, following formula is definitely not a bad thing, but it just doesn't really shine for me when you compare it to the others. At 5th place, I'm gonna put The Grand Budapest Hotel. And you know, first of all, The Grand Budapest Hotel just looks incredible. And it's just so absolutely unique also. It's just pure eye candy, and really for me calls to mind those old school like filmmaking techniques where they just build everything from the ground up, and you can really just feel the handmade love in every single inch of this movie. It's great. It also happens to be, you know, it's not just about its visuals, it just happens to be very well acted and very funny as well, with a story that's both exciting and melancholic, you know, beneath the surface. And I really would never have thought that the Academy would recognize this movie as much as it did, given how left field Wes Anderson's directing style has always been. So maybe this, you know, bodes well for him in the future. Now at 4th place, I'm gonna put Birdman. And Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu thankfully does not let his whole one-take gimmick just turn into a gimmick in this movie. He really uses it as a way to explore so many different things and themes and characters at just such a restless pace. And you know, this movie also has great acting all across the board. It's led especially by this powerhouse performance from Michael Keaton. and overall the movie really just kind of oozes originality. You know, I could keep on going about how the movie has this drum only score, which is fantastic. It has all these weird fantasy sequences also. And Birdman is another movie that I also would not have thought would be recognized by the Academy, but I think it manages to be weird, but weird enough that the Academy sees it as daring, not just weird, so good job for them. Now, third place, I'm gonna put Selma. And Selma, first of all, has just an incendiary performance from David Oyelowo as Martin Luther King Jr. And the directors, Ava DuVernay, really managed to give us this sense of urgency that didn't glorify MLK at all, you know? Like, this is one of those in medias res biopics, you know, it just takes a certain portion of MLK's life and really just presents it to us as, you know, pure facts, almost like a documentary. The editing is somewhat episodic, but, you know, it actually manages to sustain the momentum until the very end of the movie, which is not what episodic editing is supposed to do. And I will always remember Selma as the movie that has the end credit song that made me really care about end credit songs as being, you know, still part of the storytelling process in the movie. And it's absolutely infuriating, I think, that Selma did not get more nominations than it did. I'm speechless about that. Especially since this is so up the Academy's alley that I don't know how they couldn't have recognized David Oyelowo or Ava DuVernay or the script of this movie. I don't know. At second place, I'm gonna put Whiplash. And for me, first of all, it has like just these no-holds-barred performances from Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, who are so good in this movie. And the director, Damien Chazelle, manages to transform what could have been just like a template student-teacher story into something like truly unique. Like, it's the only movie I will call a musical thriller, really. And the music itself is insanely good, but the images are just as memorable, and the editing, it just tells so much story through just visuals and sound, which is very difficult to pull off. And honestly, this is the only movie in this list that I would expect everyone to like. You know, for me, if you don't like Whiplash, like, you'll really have to tell me why, and for me to really believe it. And thankfully, the Academy also liked the movie as well. I really just think it's just such an unstoppable force of nature. Well, almost unstoppable, because I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but for me, at first place, and the movie that I really thought deserved the Oscar, like, for me, no arguments at all, was Boyhood. And I realize that people are gonna get mad at me for that, but this is my opinion. For me, what Richard Linklater did with Boyhood was that he managed to turn time itself into a storytelling tool. And I don't mean time as in like the movie's running time or like editing or whatever. He used like actual time as a storytelling tool. And he really managed to subvert all my expectations of what, you know, movies should be. You know, someone before, I don't know who, said that movies are like life with all the boring parts cut out. But Richard Linklater really showed us with Boyhood that even those quote-unquote boring parts can still be interesting, can still be profound, can still be extremely touching. I related with this movie so much that, you know, nobody can tell me otherwise. If they have critiques about Boyhood, then I don't know, maybe it's subjective for me at that point. But, you know, Boyhood also had lots of really low-key, nuanced performances all throughout, and really had a script that managed to find the sublime amid, you know, our everyday lives. And, you know, just so much great stuff in Boyhood, so many nice little moments, like how the music is used as like time cards instead of actual time cards and stuff. And again, Boyhood is the kind of movie that I didn't expect to get nominated, so I'm just happy it did get nominated. So, you know, it's so unlike what the Academy, you know, usually likes. And ultimately, at the end, I really thought Boyhood was going to win the Oscar, but Birdman did. Which I'm still a bit sad about, but it's okay. Birdman is still an amazing movie, so yeah. Alright, so finally, that's it with the Oscars. What do you guys think about the Best Picture category this year? What do you think about Birdman winning? Who do you think should have won? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.